The top 5 things you won't learn from the mainstream media out of Trudeau's budget. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. So Justin Trudeau and his Liberals have a new budget out. Finance Minister Bill Morneau has just unveiled it, and guess what it's all about? Yep, the middle class. Except, as Laval University economics professor Stephen Gordon pointed out in the National Post just the other day, the Liberals haven't been doing much for the middle class and those working hard to join it. And this budget doesn't change that. So rather than repeat government talking points, I'm going to give you the top 5 things that you're missing if you're just relying on mainstream media, the media party types, to give you the news. Because, well, some of the stories out there, a lot of the stories out there, they're lacking. So here goes. I'll give you the list, then I'll explain. They claim there's no new spending. That's fake news. There's plenty of new spending. They say they're holding the line on taxes, except when they aren't. A bunch of taxes went up. Number 3, by my count, there's a big hole in their fiscal projections. We could be looking at much bigger deficits. Number 4, childcare. They claim that this is going to help the middle class pay for childcare, but, only a tiny portion of those at the lower end. And 5, they announced a major gun policy in the budget. Yeah, in the budget. All right, let's start with spending. We keep hearing there's no new spending in this budget. Is that true? No. Fake news. There's plenty of new spending in this budget. $15 billion worth, as you can see in this chart. Table A1.5, Summary Statement of Transactions. It's on page 253 of the PDF if you want to follow along at home. Now, they lay out how our money will be spent in a bunch of different ways. Look at program expenses. 2 years ago, the last Harper budget, program expenses were $270 billion a year. Last year, Trudeau increased program spending in his first budget to $290 billion. This year, it's going to rise to $305 billion. That's a $15 billion rise, $25 billion over 2 years. And much of that money for this year was announced last year. So reporters covering the budget were bored. They don't want to tell you what they said last year. But is it true that there's no new spending? No, maybe not new big ticket items announced, but they are spending. They just front-loaded the money, and the announcement was made last year. Now, this is a practice that's been going on in Ottawa for years and years. Announce money to be spent 2, 3, 5 years down the road. Get the headlines and the praise now. The Liberals used to blast Stephen Harper for doing this, but now they're doing it too. And by the way, the money that they'd previously announced is going to defense spending in future years, it's been moved. We're spending $15 billion more this year, but not on our troops, not on equipping them. They've moved $8 billion in defense spending back to sometime after 2030. Sunny ways, my friends. The other thing you won't know if you're relying on the mainstream media is what's happening with taxes. Check out this CBC headline. You would think taxes weren't going up, but they are. Payroll taxes will rise, sin taxes will rise, and Uber, they're about to be taxed. EI premiums are going to rise by 5 cents for every $100 of insurable earnings. Now, for someone earning $50,000 a year, a very middle-class income, that means about $25 a year. May not seem like much, but remember, the middle-class tax cut that Trudeau keeps raving about only saved that same person $79.50 last year. Now he's taking almost a third of it back. He's increasing taxes on alcohol, tobacco, booze taxes going up by 2%. They hope to collect an extra $55 million from Canadians through tobacco tax each year, $30 million from booze. They're cutting the tax break that was offered for people that bought a bus pass as a way to get them to try and take transit, and they're starting to tax Uber, adding HST to the ride-sharing service. As Ron Ambrose said, this budget just made your Saturday night more expensive. All right, item number 3. The Liberals are claiming that their budget will have a $28.5 billion deficit. I fear it could be a lot worse. Look at page 254 of the budget PDF. This is table A1.6, Revenue Outlook. Now look at the line that says personal income taxes. They collected $144.9 billion 2 years ago. That dropped to $143.2 billion this past year. Now they're saying they're going to get $152.1 billion in personal income tax revenue. That's a $9 billion increase. The next line down, they're saying an extra billion projected in corporate income taxes. I don't know how they expect that to happen. I've looked at their numbers on the total economic outlook. They project real GDP growth of just 2%. They don't expect much movement on unemployment. They expect the dollar to increase, which we keep being told could hurt exports. And why does all of this matter? Because if they fail to hit those targets, we're all going to get saddled with a much bigger deficit, billions of dollars more. Item number 4, childcare. The Liberals are being lauded for promising to potentially support 40,000 new childcare spaces. They're very iffy on this. They brag about this as being a way to help the middle class, by the way, by saying it'll help them with childcare expenses. Bull crap. In 2015-16, there were 392,902 live births in Canada. We get about the same number each year. Over 10 years, the Liberals are promising $7 billion on spending to maybe support 40,000. It's 10% of 1 year's worth of babies over 10 years. The math doesn't add up. You want to help low-income families? Have at it. But don't sell this as big or as helping the middle class. Just for a quick comparison, the now defunct universal childcare benefit, that $100 a month for each kid under 6 that Stephen Harper brought in, the one the Liberals said was paltry, not enough, that program cost more than $2.5 billion per year, or more than $25 billion over 10 years, and it helped every family. Trudeau is selling a bill of goods here. Finally, number 5, guns. The Liberals used to hate non-budget items being in the budget. That's when Stephen Harper was in, and I agree with that position. Don't put them in there. But now they're doing it. There it is on page 185. In 2017, Canada will join the International Arms Trade Treaty. How does this affect you? Well, there are provisions in there that I think could make it more difficult for law-abiding Canadians to get guns, could make them more expensive, and it could bring back the gun registry in a different format. How can I say that? Because I can read. The text of the treaty in Article 12 says, each state party is encouraged to maintain records of conventional arms covered under Article 2, Section 1, that are transferred to its territory as the final destination or that are authorized to transit or transship territory under its jurisdiction. Subsection 3, each party is encouraged to include in those records the quantity, value, model type, authorized international transfers of conventional arms covered under Article 2.1, conventional arms actually transferred, details of exporting states, importing states, transit and transshipment states, and end users. End users, that would be the buyer. So I expect this to be used as justification for a gun registry by any other name. Not exactly a budget item. There you have it, folks. 5 things you won't learn from the traditional media coverage of the budget. I didn't even have time and space for how they're going to prioritize gender and ethics training for judges over actually getting new judges on the bench to stop cases from being thrown out for taking too long. All in all, it's just more of Justin's sunny ways.